Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome to Gaming News. So, I decided to make this video because I wanted people to just understand what kind of situation it is, because it's gotten bad. So, if the title of the video and the thumbnail haven't given it away, I'm going to be talking about Projekt Red and their latest game, Cyberpunk 2077. If you guys know, I have been playing it on the channel recently. Well, I talked a bit about it in the videos that I've made of it so far, as I'm recording this. But I decided to make a fully dedicated video of it since there's a lot of things I need to cover, and I don't feel like I'm not going to be able to cover them while I'm playing the game. So, and also I felt like it did just need its own dedicated episode. So I decided to make a separate video for it and just discuss what's going on with Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077 and the situation that they're in. So I feel like I should start at the beginning with the development of Cyberpunk 2077. So the game was announced 8 years ago. It has been hyped to oblivion and back in that time. And when it came, and as it got closer to release day, there started to be a lot of delays and stuff like that. And there was some late crunching, which initially caused a lot of red flags for people to go up, and I was one of them. That was one of my initial ideas, that I wanted to cover the game. I knew there was probably going to be some problems if they were having delays and had to do a bit of crunching to do catch up, but I decided I wanted to cover it because I felt like it would be interesting to cover as a game. It was one of those things where it was like, yeah, I can see that this is going to be a problem, but it's nothing they couldn't fix after release day. But then I started looking into it after the game actually released, and there were a couple of problems I felt that I need to bring up, and how the game kind of arrived at its buggy state, or at least how it arrived at somewhat buggy state. So there's actually like no real one factor that contributed to the game being released in a bit of a buggy mess, and even then there's only like minor bugs and stuff like that could patch out over the coming months, and they have been doing that. They've been rolling out update after update and trying to fix the game so that it's actually playable for a lot of people. But basically what happened is that there were like a couple of different deciding factors that caused the game to be released early and in a bit of a buggy mess. First and foremost is that the investors kind of kept pressuring CD Projekt Red to give them feedback and finally pay off on their investment, since games kind of need money, and the investors were kind of getting impatient, and so CD Projekt Red kind of had to release the game to get a return on it, so that they could actually get their money back and all that. But then there was also a couple of other problems, namely that basically the fans kind of, after when the delays started coming out, and people started finding out about them, CD Projekt Red got a lot of death threats from its potential fans, as we'll put them. Not like, and it was to the point where they had to actually make a statement on it. It was to the point where where CD Projekt Red noticed that they were getting a lot of hate for it, and they decided to address it. So they decided that they needed to release it earlier so that people would stop sending them death threats, because it was getting to the point where it was becoming a problem and they weren't able to work. So they eventually decided to release it, and those same people are now ripping them a new one because they released it in a bit of an unfinished state. The game itself has a lot of things going on. So again, some bugs were to be expected, but the fact that it released with bugs, quite a few bugs, was what caused people to have problems. Not that the game's bad; it's a little buggy, but the game's still relatively solid as a concept. And again, this is a massive game that's been in development for years. So naturally, there were going to be some bugs that they wouldn't be able to squish on release day, and there were definitely going to be some problems. There's not many. There's like a few minor ones, and maybe a few visual ones and some major ones, but like one or two major ones. But for the most part, the game is fine. The game can they can easily patch out. They can easily patch in or patch out some of the stuff that needs fixing as needed, So it's not like it's going to be a big problem. But there was also the fact that they just decided that as a callback to one of the early cyberpunk stories in the or at least in the Cyberpunk franchise, they decided they would release it in 2020, and obviously 2020 kind of came and went, and then there was the fact that basically they had to release it by December because that was the last month of 2020, and so they decided to do that as a PR thing and release it in 2020. So, and they kind of just released it without really, and the higher ups just kind of had the devs release it without really considering whatever state the game was in. They got it finished, but I don't think they were able to actually go in and do enough bug testing to actually make sure that they got ironed out everything. And obviously all of those factors combined to result in Cyberpunk 2077 being released before it was ready, and that's what ultimately caused a lot of problems. So the game itself is solid, and as I mentioned, they're going to be rolling out updates for a long time, for quite a while. They're going to be rolling out updates until they fix everything that needs to be fixed. But there was an inherent problem with Cyberpunk 2077 when it came out, in that certain systems couldn't run it, like, at all. Basically what happened was they started releasing it for PS4 and Xbox One, as well as PC, but then the PS5 and Xbox Series X got announced, and they realized, oh, we need to release it for that now. So they started messing around with it to try and scale it up to the bigger game systems, and they kind of forgot that they were originally supposed to develop it for Xbox One and PS4, and for whatever reason, it just runs really poor. It's poorly optimized on those systems. So, not that the game doesn't run well. I mean, I've played it. I haven't had any problems with performance issues or anything like that, and I'm playing it on the Xbox One. But there are a lot of people who have, for whatever reason, had performance issues, and that was the big nail in the coffin for a lot of people. And that's when people realized that the game might not be as good as they were hoping it would be. Even though it was kind of in a weird position, weird nebulous position where it got released early because of a lot of different factors, but and they can easily roll that out. And some people and there is an inherent problem on CG Projekt Red's side. I'm not going to defend them for this. They only showed off the PC version and didn't show off any of the console versions. And then when the game came out, people just kind of realized that that only the PC version was up to snuff, and the rest kind of just fell apart. And I'm not going to defend CD Projekt Red for that. They fucked up. That's just the long and short of it. They fucked up on that one. And sure enough, when they found out how much backlash they were getting specifically for those versions, and for performance issues across the board, they made a statement stating that yes, we did fuck up, and we're going to try and fix it as best as we can. So and that's where it's coming in. They're just going to roll out a whole bunch of updates as time goes on in the next coming months. And basically what they're going to be what their plan is they're going to roll out updates for those who want to wait for the game to be fully patched and want to ride it out, and they're going to be offering full compensation for those who don't. So basically it's a win-win situation. Either you bought the game, didn't realize it was the game you wanted, and now need to return it, or you decide, hey, the game's still pretty good despite the problems, and if you want to ride it out, then go, by all means, ride it out. Wait until it gets fully updated and fully patched, and then maybe it'll one day be regarded as one of the great games of 2020. And there is a great game in there. It's just the fact that there's a lot of problems that people just kind of don't know how to respond to it. It's kind of buggy. It has a couple of bugs here or there, and it had performance issues. But otherwise, the game itself has no real faults. It's a great game that's just kind of buried underneath a bunch of problems, and hopefully once they strip those problems away, the game will finally shine for itself, and people will realize that's pretty good. And indeed, this isn't the first time this has happened as a problem in the gaming industry. One very notorious example is No Man's Sky. When it originally came out, there was a lot of features that were pointed out by the game developers and by Sean Murray, the CEO behind the game development company that made it. And they basically got hyped up into oblivion, and then it kind of just didn't have as many of the features as it initially thought, because they kind of overshot it a little bit and just kind of released it as it was. It was kind of just released as this exploration of space thing, and it was interesting for about 5 seconds, and then people just kind of realized that it wasn't as good as they were hyping it up to be, and for the most part, a lot of people abandoned it. But Hello Games has since bounced back, and they have started. And instead of just collecting everybody's money and leaving them holding the bag, they took that money and they put it back into the game, and now the No Man's Sky of 2020 looks a lot better as a game. So yeah, this isn't the first time this has happened. This isn't the first time where a game has been released without features, or it's been buggy as hell, or something like that. But it is the one that kind of broke the camel's back. Cyberpunk 2077 was supposed to be this big game that everybody was gonna love, and then it just kind of fell apart once it actually came out. And obviously that's a big problem. And this is where I would like to leave it, but as I said, CG Projekt Red is trying to roll out updates, but now they have a bit of a problem on their hands. Namely, that they are now potentially going to get sued for what they did. So yeah, even though they were very transparent about the fact that they screwed up and they're going to do their best to fix it, the investors aren't too happy. CD Projekt Red, shortly after the game was released, took a big hit to their stocks, and the investors want their money back. So basically, what they're doing is they're going to try and find something to stick CD Projekt Red with, and they're going to try and sue them and get their money out, which could potentially bankrupt the studio, because, as I said, their stocks are already way low. And that could potentially cause the game to just not get the updates it needs to actually be a good game, and it'll instead just stay this buggy mess forever. So yeah, there's a lot of as I said, CD Projekt Red is kind of in a bit of a mess. They've released a game in a buggy state without any, and they're trying to fix it now because they're trying to make up for that. And but now there's a potential issue that they might not be able to now. They might get sued. The studio might close down, and the game might stay in its current state forever and never get the support it needs, because the investors decided that they had enough of CD Projekt Red and decided that they want their compensation. They want to be compensated for all the false advertising and all that. Even though this isn't the first time a game has done this, and a studio has done this, and likely won't be the last, CG Projekt Red is kind of getting a lot of flack for it, because they're supposed to be this company that's very transparent and treats its consumers with respect. And the fact that they potentially didn't do that, again, because they pointed out that they only showed off the PC port and didn't really give anybody enough information to make an informed decision, which is deceptive. But then again, they did show off the superior version of the game, so maybe they have a point. But the inherent problem is that they acknowledge that they screwed up and are going to try and fix it, but which could potentially cause problems with actually trying to get a lawsuit. But the main issue with CD Projekt Red now is that they have to face a lawsuit, and most likely, if they lose, it could leave the Cyberpunk 2077 just in a mess that it will never be fixed, and it'll just be this thing that will just come off as one of the worst open world RPGs of all time. But the problem with that is that CD Projekt Red, while they did release it in a bit of a buggy state, again, can't really defend that. They are trying their best to make up for that, and they're kind of just not being given the chance. People are understandably upset at them, very upset at them for what's happened, and now they could potentially get sued by the very people that were supposed to support them and possibly cause the game to be released early in the first place. But so yeah, CD Projekt Red is kind of in a bit of a dire strait right now. So I don't recommend, like, if you don't like Cyberpunk 2077 and you have your reasons, then by all means just kind of blow it off and play something else. But if you want to support the developers and make sure that the game actually gets the support it needs so that it could actually grow and be improved, then by all means buy the game, buy Cyberpunk 2077. Make sure that the developers get the support they need to actually, make the game as good as it was supposed to be at launch. Because yeah, you could support I'm not saying support all of their actions, but definitely support the developers who are trying to work hard to fix the game, because they're kind of in a bit of a dire strait, and if the studio goes down, then the game might not get finished ever, or might not get fixed. So definitely check out Cyberpunk 2077, or don't. Maybe just spread awareness of what's going on, and maybe try to send your support in different ways. But either way, make sure that CD Projekt Red is able to just fix their game and actually atone for their mistakes. That's the big thing. If this lawsuit actually happens, they won't be able to atone, and they lose. They won't be able to atone for their mistakes. They'll just kind of be dissolved. They'll disappear, and then the game will never get finished. So, yeah. But in case, that was gaming news. What did you guys think? What do you think the situation could be? Do you think this situation is scary for CD Projekt Red? Do you think they need help? Do you think they actually need the help, or do you think that they deserve what their lot in life and deserve what they've gotten and what's about to happen to them? Either way, let me know in the comments what you guys think, because I just feel like this as a whole is just going to be this camel that broke the straw that broke the camel's back, and it's just going to be this thing where people realize that maybe they shouldn't release a game at day one at launch and just get overhyped for a game when they don't really know if the game's going to be any good or not before it comes out. So yeah, either way, it's going to be interesting seeing how this plays out, and hopefully CD Projekt Red doesn't wind up getting sued. Again, there's going to be a lot of follow-ups going forward. So I'm going to try and do my best to just kind of keep up to date with it on Twitter and make sure everybody knows what the situation and what's going on. But follow me on Twitter, by the way, if you want to know all the information about what's going on with CD Projekt Red. I'm going to do my best to keep everybody up to date with that. But basically just help CD Projekt Red if you think they're worthy of being helped. So because they definitely made a mistake, but they should at the very least get the chance to make up for that mistake. That's the big thing I want to take away from this video. They made a mistake, and they may not get the chance to fix it. So make sure they try and help them give them the chance they need to actually fix their mistake. But in any case, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks on my way of saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and also next time I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!